For years, there's been this absolutely massive multi-billion-dollar gambling industry, and it's all been running in the shadows of one of the world's biggest video games, Counter-Strike. So in this explainer, we're going to unpack this source material to really investigate this shadow economy, its crazy web of legal loopholes, and the central role played by the game's creator, Valve. And look, right at the center of this whole messy story, there's a real human cost. This quote right here, it gets to the heart of an issue that's just impossible to ignore. It's really the one place we can start where almost nothing else is agreed upon.
See, in a story that's just packed with different opinions, heroes and villains, depending on who you ask, there's this one thing that pretty much everyone, from the players to the casinos to the critics, acknowledges. Rampant, unchecked underage gambling is a huge problem in the Counter-Strike world. And here's the thing. This is not a new problem. I mean, the groundwork for this was laid way back in 2013. The first really big public scandal blew up in 2016. That means Valve has known about this for the better part of a decade. And for 8 of those years, they'd been publicly saying they're fighting it.
Okay, so how did we even get here? To really get it, you've got to look at the engine that's driving this whole economy. And that engine? Well, it was built by Valve itself. The loot box system. The source material basically calls it Valve's own slot machine. So let's break down how this actually works. You pay real money, about $2.50, for a key. You use that key to open a case, and this wheel starts spinning, flashing all these super valuable items right past your cursor. That classic, oh, so close feeling you get from a slot machine. But almost every single time you land on something worth just a few cents. It's a psychological loop, and it's designed to make you want to go again. And yet, this design is so not an accident. This quote is from an experimental psychologist who actually works at Valve. The company actively hires experts in human behavior to apply these kinds of principles to their game design. So when you ask what kind of behavior a loot box that looks and feels exactly like a slot machine is designed to induce, well, the answer seems pretty obvious, right? And boy, has it been effective. Get this. Some estimates say Valve has raked in almost $5 billion just from selling the keys to open these cases. That number doesn't even count the cut they take every time players trade or sell these items on their own marketplace. It is a wildly successful system. So, if it looks like gambling and it feels like gambling, why does Valve keep insisting that it isn't? Well, this gets us to the core legal argument they use to defend the whole system, a defense that's built on a pretty well-known loophole, let's call it. Okay, so Valve's entire official defense, it all hangs on this one tiny detail. You can only sell your items for Steam wallet funds, and you can't withdraw that as actual cash. So their argument is that the items technically have zero real-world value, and opening a case isn't really a wager. But that's only if you stay inside Valve's little walled garden. Yeah, it's basically just gambling with extra steps. And it's a playbook we've seen before. In Japan, where cash gambling is illegal, pachinko parlors let you win these little silver balls. You can't cash them out inside, but you can take them to a little third-party vendor right outside the door and swap them for cash. Does that sound a little familiar? You win a skin in Counter-Strike, you take it to a third-party website, and you exchange it for cash. It's the exact same model. A player in the source material really just cuts through all the noise with this. He bought a Steam Deck, that's Valve's own hardware, using the funds he got from selling his in-game items on the Steam marketplace. His question just nails it. If these items have no value, how was he able to use them to buy a real physical thing? So all of this leads to this really weird paradox. Ever since 2016, Valve has been saying publicly that they're fighting these third-party gambling sites. But 8 years later, the industry is bigger than it has ever been. So why hasn't this eternal fight actually, fixed anything? Well, the source material lays out a couple of theories here. The first is that being in this constant public battle with evil offshore casinos just looks good. It's a great distraction from anyone looking too hard at Valve's own slot machine-style system. The other theory, and this one's a bit more cynical, is that Valve actually benefits from it. These gambling sites create this huge demand for skins, which drives up their value, which then pushes more people to open more of Valve's cases. And look, this isn't just players throwing around theories. After a 21-month investigation back in 2016, the Washington State Gambling Commission, we're talking the top regulator in Valve's own backyard, they concluded that Valve knowingly facilitates the illegal wagering of skins. Now, prosecutors didn't end up pursuing a case, but that finding from the experts, that's a pretty powerful statement. So, okay, you've got all these different players, influencers, teams, casinos,
even governments. But who really holds the cards here? Who actually has the power to change this? Well, the investigation points in one very clear direction. To figure that out, let's look at one of Valve's own responses when they were asked about all this. It's pretty telling. It's what you might call the no data defense. During an interview, a Valve employee got asked if this multi-billion-dollar gambling world has, maybe grown interest in their game. The response was, "We don't know. We don't have any data to support that." Now keep in mind, this is coming from a company that literally hires economists, a company whose job ads brag about having lots and lots of data. But then, here's the kicker. In the exact same interview, Valve's CEO, Gabe Newell, says this. He says that inside the company, information is easy to get, that it's just not hard to find things out if you need to know them. I mean, the contradiction between we have no data and information is easy to get is pretty glaring. And we have absolute proof that when they want to act, they can. After a big scandal stirred up some bad press, Valve pushed out a software update just days later that was specifically designed to mess with how these casino sites worked. And when France banned loot boxes you could trade, Valve didn't get rid of them. No, they rolled out the super sophisticated X-ray scanner thing, a loophole that, by the way, is used by actual slot machine companies to get around similar laws. This proves they have the power, and they definitely have the know-how. So when you look at the whole picture, it becomes clear. All roads lead back to Valve. Influencers, teams, governments, they all have parts to play. But Valve is the one single company that owns the game, owns the marketplace, and owns the items. They're the only ones who can just flip a switch and shut this whole thing down. So you have to remember, for 8 long years, Valve has been saying publicly that they're fighting the black market casinos that are built around their game. They've sent out the legal letters, they've made the public statements. So that leads us to the big, final question that you just can't avoid. If they're the only ones with the real power to fix it, and they've been publicly fighting it for 8 years, then why hasn't it been fixed? And you know what? The most powerful final thought here doesn't come from a critic or a journalist. It comes from Valve's own CEO, Gabe Newell, talking about how his company works. You have fucked 1 million customers, you probably should fix it, but nobody's looking over your shoulder. A perfect and maybe a little chilling way to sum this whole thing up.